Welcome to the Coach Teddy Keaton Show, live on HBCU Game Day. I am Sly, the sports guy, Sly Williams, and I am joined by the one and only Coach Teddy Keaton as we get ready to talk some exciting Clark Atlanta University football. And Coach, no better way than to start the season with a victory. How do you feel, Coach?
I'm great. I felt better on Saturday. You know, we give ourselves 24 hours and we wash ourselves of it and try to move on to the next thing.
Well, in case you're wondering, the Teddy Keaton era of Clark Atlanta football kicked off with a 45-42 victory over Fort Valley State down in Fort Valley, Georgia. Exciting game, record-setting game for the Panthers of Clark Atlanta. We're going to break down the game here on the Coach Teddy Keaton Show. We're going to start off with the setting, how we got there. 1 o'clock kickoff in Georgia. Well, your boys ready for the heat. How do you get them ready for that heat?
Well, what we tried to do is you can't simulate that heat down in South Georgia. So what we did, we tried to practice in the afternoons and like 2 o'clock, tried to get it at the times of those games and try to get some 6 o'clock practice. We practiced no morning practices where we had when no heat was out. We wanted them to be in extreme heat at all times so their bodies could get used to it. The question was, most of us as coaches, is we the ones that really suffered on Saturday. I mean, I think the fans and everybody suffered.
I tell you, it was a hot one. I was even down on the sideline. I wasn't used to it. I got to get back in the press box. I don't know if I can handle all that heat. Well, let's break down the game real quick. Started off early. Clark Atlanta with the first possession went down, had a 3-and-out, and then they punted. Snap goes over the punter's head. 1st and 10 on the 19-yard line for Fort Valley, and Fort Valley goes ahead and pushes it on in and jumps out to a 7-0 lead. Next possession, Clark Atlanta comes back, another 3-and-out. Bad snap, one more time, deja vu all over again, and this time Fort Valley 1st and 10, ball on the 15-yard line, and Fort Valley goes ahead and pushes it in. Fort Valley 14-0. Down 14-0, Coach, what are you telling your team right then and there?
Well, first of all, you know, those 2 blotch snaps was from a freshman. It's his first game. He had just got in, and I think he was a little nervous. He hadn't done it at all at practice. I just was wondering about it. But to go down 14 for a team that hadn't won a game in 2 years was kind of like, well, we're going to see how they overcome adversity here. How do they respond to this? And I think they responded really well. I didn't see them jitter. I didn't see them shake. I didn't see them flinch. Everybody was still being positive with each other, coaching each other up, just trying to keep us in the direction we needed to go in.
Well, speaking of response, very next drive, 6-play drive, 65 yards, 3 minutes and 40 seconds. David Wright hits Virgil Young with a 22-yard touchdown pass. Just like that, right at him, but the extra point miss. Let's keep that in the memory bank. Keep that in their memory bank. Then we'll come back next drive. Fort Valley State trying to drive down the field. Durham, super quarterback from Fort Valley, throws his first interception of the year. DeLille Wilkins, interception on the 6-yard line. And then right like that, 3 plays later, a 59-yard touchdown pass. David Wright to Jamal Jones. And Jamal, you can see he shook a couple of people, made a couple of people miss for those 59 yards to pay dirt for Jamal Jones. Extra point this time was good. Score 13-14, Fort Valley on top. Now Fort Valley, they answer. They'll come back, and now this time Durham, he'll finish it off with a 7-yard TD pass to Jimmy Inman. Now, one more time, Clark Atlanta has to answer. This time Clark Atlanta, 6-play, 65-yard drive, another 3-minute drive, Coach. And this time, David Wright to Jamal Jones for a 34-yard touchdown pass. Score 21-20. Now, what about Jamal Jones? Jamal Jones had an awesome game out there. Jamal Jones ended up finishing the game 7 catches, 136 yards, 2 touchdowns. Can you tell us a little bit about Jamal, Coach?
Well, Jamal Jones is a kid that came with me from Allen. He's from Tampa, Florida. He played at Armwood High School, a powerhouse down in Bradenton, Florida. Jamal had a breakout campaign his freshman year at Allen University. Then he turns around his next 2 years. He was hampered with a hamstring. So I was kind of reserved when he called me and told me he wanted to come here with me. and he had told me he had got healed up, his body was doing well, and he wanted to come out and he was going to ball. He said, I promise you, you won't regret it. So all during camp, he just made great plays. He did a lot of great things. He brought a lot of excitement. When, you know, he's a guy, when you try to tackle him, if you see him catch a hitch or a bubble, he's not a guy that you can easily bring down. You're going to have to come and wrap him up, or he'll bounce off you like a ping pong. And he's just been doing his thing since camp, and it just rolled over to the game. And I saw the same Jamal Jones that I witnessed when we recruited him to Allen University.
Jamal Jones. Well, next possession, Fort Valley has it, forced to punt it away. And now Clark Atlanta, they'll get the ball with 3 minutes and 3 seconds left to go in the half. You've seen all game long Fort Valley. I mean, Clark Atlanta, the drives have been 3 minutes to pay dirt. Could they hit it now? Well, this one they have it at the 35-yard line. Takes 2 minutes and 9 seconds, and this time David Wright to Virgil Young for a 10-yard touchdown pass. Coach, quick hitting offense. It doesn't take long for you all to put it in the end zone. How do you get your guys ready to run that 2-minute drill?
I mean, we practice these situations every day. We go a lot of team. We do a lot of things that we in 2-minute situational football. We put them in difficult situations to know. Only thing I wish it was probably about 50 more minutes long, 50 seconds longer, so we could get all that time off. So when the kickoff happens at the beginning of the game, you have a kickoff. So we got the ball. They deferred to the second half. We know that we needed to steal a possession so that when they come out in the third quarter, we would be up at least a possession, so when they come back, they could either score and tie it up, or we get the ball back again and we score again and put it away for 2 possessions. So it's important that when you defer to the second half, you get the ball first, you need to score at least on your first possession, or try to be ahead when you get to halftime, or you need to be at least 0-0 when you go to halftime.
Well, there you have it. Going into the half, score 26-21. The good guys up over the bad guys. Now we'll come out in the second half. Opening drive of the second half, Fort Valley goes hard. 76 yards down the field, 9 plays. Brandon Marshall caps it off with a 2-yard touchdown run. Score 28-26. Bad guys on top. Now, Clark Atlanta will have it this time, next drive, and they answer. This time it's an 8-play, 67-yard drive, and David Wright to Armani Harris. The extra point failed. Score 32-28. Now, at this time, David Wright, the young man, has 5 touchdowns, Coach. 5 touchdowns through the air. Did he know something special was going on? Because I think everybody on the sideline and everybody watching on HBCU Go or the Griot knew something special was going on.
When you got to live up to the hype. You know, he was player of the year. He was offensive player of the year. He comes out, and in a game, he really had a bad game last year when we was at Allen. He 5 interceptions, 5 turnovers against Fort Valley in a game that we were 4-0 at that time, coming off the road from Central State. He comes back out, and he basically didn't have a great game that game. I think that replayed in his mind all year long, because that was a game that decided, you know, where we could be at in the finish for a championship, or be in the talk or the conversation about playing for a championship. So he kind of took that with him, and he knew the first game of the year, everybody going live TV, national TV, he's going to be the guy that's everybody's talking about going into the season. We didn't transfer. We didn't created all this controversy from leaving from Allen University, and we take our talents to Atlanta here, and now everybody wanted to see what David Wright was able to do here. Was he able to translate the same, you know, effort? I think he answered every question that everybody was wondering about, including yourself.
I tell you, I tell everybody all throughout the preseason my questions, my concerns with David Wright. David Wright, you know he's been one of my favorite players for the past 2 years, but I tell him he's a gunslinger, and I love gunslingers. Now, the thing about gunslingers, they'll shoot you, but they might shoot you out of it too.
That's right.
And I said it from every space that I've been on. I said this young man may lead the nation in touchdowns or interceptions. Either one, but he's going to be exciting when he does it. And I love to see what I saw out of him. So now let's kick it back to him. Fort Valley State, they had the ball, and they had another 3-and-out. Great defensive performance, 3-and-out, but they had a huge 50-yard punt that was down on the Clark Atlanta 16-yard line. 84 yards. 84 yards David Wright had to lead them. David Wright led them on a 14-play, 84-yard drive to go and get them to pay dirt with a 3-yard touchdown pass to Ronnie West. But here's the key play of that drive, Coach. As the third quarter ended, going into the fourth quarter, it was 4th and 2. 4th and 2. This is when I like to say the head coach makes his money. Somebody got to make a decision, and Clark Atlanta decided to go for the fake punt and picked up the first down. What led to that decision? How did you all decide to go for that, Coach?
Well, me and Coach Cole handles our special teams. So me and Coach Cole had pulled it together, and I said, well, we've had 2 bad snaps on the punt team. I don't want to go out and give another one and give them a ball back on a short field. I say, we have been working on these 2 trick plays for 3 years, and we hadn't ran them at one time. So I said, today might be the day we need to pull it out. And Coach Cole looked at me surprised, like, you sure? Because every time he asked me, can he run, what I say no. So today was his lucky day, and we just decided that, hey, let's pull it out. We ain't got nothing to lose. We need to extend this drive and take some more time off this clock and put ourselves in position to be able to possibly score again. Offense had been hot, so why not give them the ball back?
Why not give him the ball? You got the hottest quarterback in the land working. Why not make sure you give him the ball back? Well, got the touchdown. Now it's Fort Valley ball. Fort Valley puts Durham in a bad situation, and he's intercepted by, guess what? Mama, there goes that man. One more time, D'Elia Wilkins with the interception. The cornerback coming up big. Tell me a little bit about D'Elia.
D'Elia's a guy we got from the junior college back in my second year at Allen. He came, he's from Bamberg, South Carolina, by way of Philly. Him and his twin brother always stuck with us. He was the punter at Allen last year. He came here, but he had ran out of semesters, so we couldn't use him. So he's currently in grad school. Dahil is currently in grad school, and Dahil had one more season to come along, and he's just continuously grown. He was defense, I think, second team All-American this year. Did a really good job for us at Allen, and I thought he came out the box to live up to the hype of who everybody thought he could be. And he had controversy because he was coming over. He could have chose to win a lot of places because a lot of people was hunting for him and David Wright's service and Armand's service. Almost lost Armand to Albany State, you know, and those guys all were searching for him to get him on their team. So I'm just glad he on my side of the sticks.
Big pickup. Young man had 2 interceptions, 2 big interceptions for Clark Atlanta. And, well, after that interception, Coach, you know what I like to do. I tell people all the time, when I'm in the booth, I'm calling the game. There's one thing I like to see after interception. I want to see play action, and I want to see go down deep after interception. And, Coach, you and your offensive coordinator did not let me down. David Wright to Amani Harris, 32-yard touchdown pass in the air. But the extra point was blocked. The extra point was blocked. Special teams, Coach. We're going to talk about special teams. Now, Fort Valley has the ball one more time, driving down the field. 47-yard touchdown pass, Durham to Brandon Marshall. Now, Brandon Marshall ended up the game with 45 yards rushing, Coach. How do you bottle up a running back of Brandon Marshall's caliber? One of the best running backs in the league, probably the best running back.
I don't know if you can bottle him up. We just had to find a way to keep him under control. He hurt us last year at Allen. I mean, I think he hurt everybody in the conference.
Yes.
I mean, the guy is special. I mean, he's one of those guys that got power, speed, agility, everything you want to see in the back. He can catch out the backfield. He's a complete running back, and he runs with a low center of gravity. He holds on to the football. I think he's a tremendous athlete. We talked about him in our film sessions, our meetings, to make sure that we understood that we got to hug him up. Is that you can't give him a little bit of space. You got to hug him up. And you, as you know, in one of those drives that we had, we didn't hug him up, and he made us pay for it. So I told him, you know, those are the things that we have to do. And that one time, we let him get out from the corral and then keeping him in that box. It's just like KD. We said the same thing about him. We're not going to let him beat us with his legs. We're not going to let him, because if you take it back a year before when we played down there, not last year, but the year before, KD ends up winning the ball game on the final drive and walks it in on a naked bootleg because we didn't remember the BCR rule, boot, counter, and reverse. We decided to take the end route, and he pulls the ball and walks into the end zone. We lose the ball game, which was a heartbreaker. And we just worked hard at it. We put guys back there to try to simulate Brandon and make sure that we had him under control.
Tough one. The control, that type, that caliber of a back. Now, Clark Atlanta gets the ball. This time you all was stalled. Had it on 4th down, 4th and 2. You got it on the last 4th down, so now you decide to go for it one more time. But this time the Fort Valley Wildcat defense stepped up big and stuffed you for a 2-yard loss. What happened on that play, Coach?
Well, they had to substitute the guard out. The guard had hurt his hand, and they put the freshman guard in, and he got cross-faced. And that's the rule of the lineman. We know not to get cross-faced. It took me all the way to Monday to figure out what happened there. So when I got the film and I started looking at it and I got the back copy, he slanted across his face right into the hole and met the running back right there to stop his momentum from going. So, I mean, it's a freshman mistake. Guy gets his first shot to go in the game. And Derek did a really good job for us the rest of the way when he was in the ball game, when he had to play. It was hot, young, first ball game, jitters. All those guys that made, even in the special teams, all those guys that's their first time on that big of a stage against Fort Valley. I keep telling you, if it's Albany State, Fort Valley, Tuskegee, those are the blue bloods of this conference. And for you, when you go into those games, you gotta not make mistakes. You can't. They'll make you pay for those mistakes. You can't be raggedy. You got to be where you got to be. And I think that they'll all learn from this, and hopefully we won't repeat the same thing going into this next week's game.
I think so. Now, Clark, Atlanta, they'll get it back. Fort Valley punts it away. Clark gets it back. Another 3 and out. This time, a quick kick by David Wright. A quick kick. David Wright showing a little bit of everything. He's throwing for touchdowns. He'll scramble, get out of trouble. Did he drive the bus down there too? Does he do everything, Coach?
Well, the way we looked at it, again, that's another one of those head coaches' decisions you got to make. I saw during the game, if you're paying attention, special teams was struggling a little bit. We had dribbled the ball back there. We had even when we got a punt off, he kicked it off the side of his foot. It went 4 or 5 yards. So I said, what we'll do is we'll attempt like we're going to run a play, and we'll just let David quick kick it. We work on it in practice sometime when you get in that gray area between the 40 and the 35, and you don't want to, your field goal kicker can't make it from that perspective area. So you let your quarterback quick kick and try to pin them down there so they got to go the distance of the game. So we thought we had executed good on offense. They didn't put anybody back, and David got off a quick kick. Maybe we can, do a little bit better. We got to do a better cover in that. But you got your offensive linemen. They don't plan on running down there that far. So those are the things that we practiced those situations, and that we had to use almost every situation that we practiced. In our first game, we had to use them, including our hands team.
Yeah, there you go. That's what practice is for. Well, Fort Valley has the ball now, and this time they'll drive down the field, and Durham will cap it off with a 15-yard touchdown run. Now it's a 3-point ball game, Coach. 3-point ball game, score 45-42. Clark has it, and they go 3 and out one more time. 3 and out one more time. Fort Valley will have it. They'll start off right around the 25 or 27-yard line, and they try to push it down the field. Clock was not on their side, but they managed to make it on their side, and they managed to get down in one last try for a Hail Mary. They throw it up in the end zone. Everybody in the crowd holding their breath. Referee says incomplete pass, and hey, it's a new sheriff in town.
Well, honestly, I thought he caught it. I mean, the way Fort Valley fans were yelling, I thought, we had figured out a way to lose a ball game. And when we had them at one point in time, 45-28, just to come out of that in Fort Valley with a team that hadn't won a ball game in 2 years, I think it was something special. It was a great way to introduce Coach Keaton to the world in Atlanta in the football circuit. And I was very proud of the work that we had done on the field, even if they had lost. Mm-hmm. I've watched Clark Atlanta play for years, and we've came and played them. They've had some tough teams, and then you had some teams over the last 2 or 3 years that really just at any point in time would have quit. And I saw fight, I saw resilience, I saw work ethic, I saw them guys playing, and I saw them having fun. They were having fun. And when you're having fun, it's always good to play the game. When I watch the receivers, when they make a play, I saw everybody cheering for everybody. It was just probably one of a great moment for me in life to be able to. I've never beaten Fort Valley in my coaching career.
I did not know that.
Up to last year was the first time I beat Albany State in my coaching career. So it was a bittersweet thing to go down and watch a team that you nobody gave us a chance to win. Nobody but us. We the only people that believed that we were going to win. I think that you.
I did, Coach.
I mean, well, that's
I picked them.
Dr. Cavell put the target on my back, and he had went and did some homework on my roster and saw that we had a pretty good roster and we had fit areas that he thought that needed to be addressed. And I guess we proved the world that we are a contender if we continue to progress and do the things we need to do in order to keep going through this conference.
Well, Coach, let's break down some of the stats from the game. Just about every major statistical category, Clark Atlanta dominated. First downs, 23-18, except rushing, net yards rushing, Fort Valley 64-51. Got to work on that rushing game, Coach. Got to get those yardage up. But passing on the other side, 423 yards passing to 210. Total offense, 474, 274. Punts, not many punt yards. 3 punt yards, Coach. 3. We gotta get that number up when punting. The return game, won in the return game. But here's the one that we worry about, Coach. Penalties. You won in the penalty matchup. I don't know if that's a win, but you had 14 penalties for 217 yards compared to 5 penalties for 115, Coach. What do you tell your guys about those penalties?
Well, some of them I don't know if they were all mine, but we got to take the good with the bad. You got to work on those things. Those are areas that we got to get better at. A couple of them were delay of game penalties. That's transition. One time out of a timeout. I really hate that when you come out of a timeout and then you get a delay of game penalty. That's not good from the anesthetics of the game. And if somebody's watching you and how you manage the game, that would be a conversation you got to have with your coordinator about, getting your kids in and out the huddle. And one time we had to call a timeout. And that got so bad that I thought that they was playing with the clock on me because it ain't no way. I'd be like, we ain't even talked 4 seconds. And it's time to get out of it. Neither here nor there. It's something that we'll add to our practice now. We'll talk about getting in and out the clock. There's no situation, and I've never really shared much insight on how we practice and how we coach. There's no situation that we don't go over. Last year, I don't know if you was commentating that game when we played Kentucky State.
I did Kentucky State.
And we was down 35, and when y'all interviewed David after the game was over, he told you it's just practice. We do all these situations. We put ourselves down 21 with the defense and the offense playing against each other, and then we insert the special teams in it. The only thing that happened this go around was that there were a lot of kids that we were trying to figure out. Just imagine trying to go on the road against arguably the second best team in the conference that's picked by the coaches and players and media. We had to get the best 58 together because you could only travel with 58 players. So you got to figure out what 58 players. They learning a new system, new offense, new defense, and there's a lot of players. Everybody just talk about the Allen players that's in there. There's a lot of other players that came from different programs that's learning what to do, how to do it, and why it's important to do it that way. So we spent a little bit too much time on offense and defense preparation, and we kind of tried to fill in the gaps with special teams, and it kind of showed on Saturday, and that's an area where we're going to have to spend a little bit more time at this week.
Sounds good, sounds good. Now let's break down some of the individual stats of the game. We'll start off with the rushing. We'll start off on the defensive side. The defensive side, Solomon Mosley, leading tackle. He had 7 tackles, 2 assists, for a total of 9. Tackles for loss, the leader for tackles for loss was Artavian Edmond. Artavian Edmond had 2 tackles for loss and a sack. But leading with the interceptions was Dalil Wilkins. Dalil Wilkins ended up with 2 total tackles and 2 interceptions for a negative 17 yards. Now on the offensive side of the ball. The rushing game got to see a little bit of Elijah Crockett. He was your leading rusher, 13 attempts for a net of 34 yards. Got to work on that one, Coach. We're going to get that one tightened up. And Trayvon Pender had 12 carries for 27 yards. Receiving, Jamal Jones, he had 7 receptions, 136 yards, 2 touchdowns. Amani Harris, 7 receptions, 118 yards for 2 touchdowns. Virgil Young, 4 receptions, 84 yards, 2 touchdowns. Ronnie West, 4 receptions, 65 yards, and 1 touchdown. And the guy leading it all, getting everything on track, David Wright, 23 for 31, 423 yards, 7 touchdowns. What a night for David Wright. And I tell you, Coach, if you take away those first 2 drives, he might have been perfect. I think he may have thrown 2 incompletions in the second half, and that's it.
Well, we worked on, taking what the defense give you. And let me back you up to the rushing attack. I think that what made his passing attack so much better, because when they found out we had Elijah Crockett, who's a transfer from the University of Alabama, he's a big guy. He's 5'11", 220 pounds, and our freshman running back, he's 5'10", 222. So when those guys got to make those adjustments on defense and being able to see those guys in their presence, you got to add another hat to the box. So now when you bring that guy down, even if you're showing too high, he slides down there when at the snap of the ball. He's got to stop whatever coming, and everything is coming off a play fake, which give those outside receivers, inside receivers, linebackers can't get the hook, the curl. In the past, because we didn't have a presence of not take anything away from Bo Harrington, because Bo Harrington is a really good footback, but he wasn't a threat to nobody. They would play a 4-1 box and play a nickel coverage, which kept the back half all fuzzy. So now David was making, if you give him that type of presence, so let's say they stayed too high, I think Elijah Crockett and Pender would have had a better day in their office if somebody stayed too high, but they can get elusive. If you saw it a couple times where they broke out of the backfield and they hit the corner on them and they got into the third level of the secondary. So I think over time, as we get used to being a run and pass offense, I think that we'll see it grow as time goes along.
It's a difference when you have 230 pounds coming at you versus 170.
That's no doubt about it.
It's a big difference. It's a big difference. Salute to Bo Harrington. He's a good running back, but he don't weigh 230 pounds.
That's right.
Speaking of Bo Harrington, next week, Coach, coming into town, first home game on that red turf, you get to see your old friends, the guys from Columbia, South Carolina, those Yellow Jackets from Allen. Little bit of mixed emotions, I guess, coming into this game, Coach?
There's no doubt about it. I mean, that's a place that's going to forever be home for me. I built a program from the ground up. Everything in the blueprint is Teddy Keaton on it. And there's guys that I left sprinkled through that program that I'm happy for. Some of them that, they're going to have an opportunity to be able to first time play. Some of them going to have an opportunity like Bo Harrington to keep carrying on. You got guys like Cam Scott, we call him Light Bright, but Light Bright is on that. He's a defensive end. He's a guy that we love that contributes significantly to our programs. So I'm just happy for the opportunity. But they're next on the schedule, so no more for emotions. We just got to play football. They come in to try to win a game. I'm trying to win a game, so we're going to go out there and give them the best shot we got.
Now, Coach, also, can you tell us a little bit about this red turf? What are the advantages to having that red turf, Coach?
It's different. We'll find out Saturday. I don't know what the advantages are. It's different. It's just say it's brought a lot of people, like tourists to come see it and take a picture of it. I mean, every time I look out, there's somebody with a video camera or a picture trying to take a shot of it. And it's actually gorgeous. I'm just worried about what it's going to look like 5 years from now. So those guys have done a good job. My AD, Jarrell Drew, has done a good job, Dr. French, in the support of trying to enhance the whole Clark Atlanta experience, because as I tell people, CAU is a vibe in itself. It just need a football program that's respectable and people like it and give the city something to be happy about.
All right. Well, looking forward to Saturday's game. Everybody, if you're in the sound of my voice, come on down to Clark Atlanta University. Watch an exciting game. The Clark Atlanta Panthers taking on the Allen Yellow Jackets. We'll be waiting for you. I'll be in the stadium. Hopefully you'll be in the stadium also to check us out. Now, Coach, we got to give MVPs. We got to give MVPs of the game. On the defensive side, with 2 interceptions, we're going to go with Dalil Wilkins. Dalil Wilkins, young man from Bamberg, South Carolina. Bamberg, little country town in South Carolina. I love Bamberg. Love him down there. But he represented his hometown really well with the 2 interceptions, and now he's our defensive player of the game. Sponsors, you can put your name in front of that. Make sure you get in touch with us if you want to sponsor the player of the game. Now, the offensive player of the game, Coach, hard decision. I don't know how could we choose who would be the offensive player of the game. But I guess we're just going to say David Wright. We'll just put his name out there.
Well, you guys wanted to give it to David Wright, but I was thinking more of the offensive line because they really did a great job of protecting him. Every time I looked up, he had at least 3 seconds to throw the football, and that's something special when you got a guy. And my hat goes off to that crew, that Coach Frank Sutton Jr. He did a really good job of getting those guys prepared to go out there and protect him for the plays. We had 8-play drives, 6-play drives. So that's not normal in a first game. You know, you'll see a lot of what those guys actually executed at a high level, and I'm proud of them.
Well, great job by that offensive line. You had some monsters up front, and they gave David plenty of time. And I think they gave up 2 sacks the entire game. And I think one of them could be counted as a coverage sack. He couldn't even blame that on the offensive line.
Correct.
One of those sacks.
You're right.
Call it a coverage sack. Great job by the Clark Atlanta University offense, the offensive line, and the backs and the receivers. Great job. But for us, we're going to have to give the MVP for this week to David Wright, young man. 23 out of 31, 423 yards, 7 touchdowns, and no interceptions for Mr. Wright. What a ball game, what a ball game, what a ball game. Well, we'll get ready for next week. We will see you next week. He is Teddy Keaton. We want to thank all of our sponsors, everybody who joined us, everybody who helped us out. Shout out to D Black for all the video that you've seen. Shout out to Miles for producing the game. I am Sylvester Williams. They call me Sly the Sports Guy, and we will see you next week on the Coach Teddy Keaton Show here on HBCU Game Day.